In my family, there were two kinds of sound: the applause for my older sister, Lauren, and the background noise. That was me. My name is Hannah. I was 21, standing in the kitchen of our sterile white McMansion in a quiet Illinois suburb, one of those houses where everything is for show and nothing is for comfort. I was looking out the window as my father, Richard, handed Lauren the keys to a brand new car. It even had a giant red bow on the hood, a reward for her big promotion. I just stood there holding a wet dish rag, watching them laugh. The main song was playing at full volume, and I was just the static. Have you ever felt like background noise in your own life while someone else was always the main song? Lauren, my older sister, worked in marketing. That's what she told people. It meant she was polished, loud, and obsessed with appearances. She was the one who brought home achievements. My younger sister, Emily, was 19. She was the baby, a role she played perfectly. If Emily spilled wine on the white carpet, she'd just giggle, and my dad would call it a happy accident. And then there was me. I was the cleaner of happy accidents, the listener, the one who made the coffee, the one who remembered everyone else's birthdays. I used to think it was just carelessness, that I was just the quiet one. But I learned that in families like mine, it's not accidental, it's a system. Psychologists call it the golden child and the scapegoat dynamic. In a dysfunctional family, roles are assigned. The golden child, Lauren, exists to bring glory to the parents. She's the reflection of their success. The scapegoat, that's where you dump all the disappointment, the frustration, and the exhaustion. That was me. I wasn't invisible because I lacked value. I was invisible because that was my job. I had to be the background noise so Lauren could be the song. I had to be dull so she could be shiny. I realized this with perfect, cold clarity on my 21st birthday. The day started with silence. No happy birthday, no card on the counter, just a text from my dad reminding me that it was trash day. Lauren was out celebrating her promotion all day. I told myself it didn't matter. I went to my part-time job at the campus library, came home, and baked myself a small cake. Just a little round vanilla thing with store-bought frosting. I put a single candle in it and set it on the kitchen counter. I waited. Around 8 p.m., the front door flew open. Lauren, Emily, and my dad came in laughing, carrying shopping bags and empty champagne bottles from the celebration. Lauren was glowing. "It was perfect, Dad, just perfect," she said, tossing her coat onto the chair I had just cleaned. "Only the best for my number one girl," Richard said, beaming at her. They all walked right past me. They walked past the kitchen counter, past the little cake with its one unlit candle. Not one of them glanced at it. My dad just pointed to the sink. "Hannah, you didn't run the dishwasher. We've got no clean glasses for tomorrow." I looked at the sink. It was full of their morning coffee mugs and breakfast plates. I looked at my little cake, and I understood. This wasn't forgetfulness. This was a balance sheet. And on their balance sheet, I simply didn't exist. Lauren was the asset. I was just a liability, the cost of maintenance. I stood there in the sterile quiet of that kitchen, and the anger wasn't hot. It was cold. It was the kind of cold that makes things clear. I didn't need to be invisible for them anymore. I just needed to be gone. That night, I went up to my room. I listened to Lauren and Emily laughing down the hall. I looked at my small, untouched cake. I didn't cry. I didn't write an angry note. I just opened an old backpack. I packed a few shirts, my toothbrush, and the $300 I'd saved from the library job. I walked downstairs. The house was silent. I put my house key on the counter right next to the little cake with its one unlit candle, and I walked out. The silence that followed me out the door was the same silence that had lived there for 21 years. The only difference was this time, I was choosing it. Fast forward 3 years. I'm 24 now. I live in Madison, Wisconsin, in a room in an old group house with sloping floors and drafty windows. It's messy, it's loud, and it's the first real home I've ever had. My roommate Ben plays guitar badly and always leaves exactly half a pot of soup for me when he cooks. I don't work at the library anymore. I work the 5 a.m. shift at an artisan bakery downtown. That sterile McMansion smelled like chemical polish and cold air. My new life smells like butter, burnt sugar, and roasting coffee. It's the smell of effort. My manager is a woman in her 50s named Marla, but everyone just calls her M. She's tough, sees everything, and doesn't believe in shortcuts. On my first day, she showed me the proofing box. It was just a big, warm, humid metal cabinet where the bread dough sat in the dark. She pointed to it and said, "This is the most important part of the bakery, Hannah. You can't rush this." She tapped the metal door. "Dough needs time, darkness, and warmth to rise. You've got to respect that. The best things grow in silence." I thought about that a lot. The bakery in the mornings and in the afternoons, I worked as an assistant at a historical archive. It was a job I loved. It was the opposite of my family's house. It was a place where silent, meticulous work was the entire point. I spent my days handling fragile documents, breathing in the dry, sweet smell of old paper. My world was small, and it was mine. Then, one Tuesday, I was in the archive basement, carefully cataloging old city maps. My phone, which was always on silent, buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out, expecting a text from Ben about groceries. My heart didn't just drop, it froze. The name on the screen was Lauren. 3 years, 1,095 days of absolute, uninterrupted silence, and now her name was glowing on my phone. I felt a cold shock, like touching a live wire. It wasn't sadness, it was the old familiar dread, the feeling of an alarm bell ringing somewhere deep inside me. I let it ring until it stopped. A second later, a text message. I opened it. It read, "Hannah, call me back, urgent." That was it. Not "I miss you," not "Are you okay?" not "I'm sorry," just a command. I stared at the word urgent. I thought about how my 21st birthday hadn't been urgent, my leaving hadn't been urgent, my entire existence for 3 years hadn't been urgent. I put the phone back in my pocket. I didn't answer. I went back to the map, but my hands were shaking. The spell was broken. The background noise was trying to get back in. I didn't reply. For the rest of the day, I felt like I was walking underwater. That evening, as I was walking home, it buzzed again. This time, it was my father, Richard. I stood on the sidewalk, the sound of traffic rushing past me. I declined Lauren's call, but this was different. This was the man who had watched me be invisible and done nothing. I answered, mostly just to gather information. "Hello?" His voice was thin, nervous. "Hannah? Hannah, is that you?" "It's me." My voice was flat, clinical. "Oh, thank God. Hannah, where have you been? Well, Lauren said things are just terrible." I leaned against a cold brick wall. "Terrible how, Dad?" It's just," he was fumbling the way he always did when Lauren wasn't telling him what to say. "Your sister, it's all a mess. You need to come home, Hannah. The family needs you." Needs hit me like a stone. They had never needed me. They had used me, but never needed me. Needs me for what? There was a long pause on his end. I could hear him breathing. "Hannah, just please. It's about the house. We need to talk to you about the house." My blood went cold. Not "we miss you," not "we're sorry." It was about the house, the sterile white box I'd left 3 years ago. "I'll think about it," I said. It was a lie. I hung up before he could answer. I stood there on the street, and the anger I felt was sharp and precise. After 3 years, they weren't calling for me. They were calling for something I could do for them. It was just a transaction. It had always been a transaction. The only question was what it was. I agreed to meet them, not because I wanted to see them, but because I needed to know the why. A transaction requires all the terms on the table. We met at a generic coffee shop off the highway, halfway between my new life and my old one. Neutral ground. I got there 20 minutes early and chose a booth in the back corner, a place where I could see the door. I didn't buy anything. I just sat and waited, my hands resting on the table, perfectly still. They walked in together, and the change was shocking. My father looked like he'd aged a decade. His shoulders were slumped, and the confidence he always had around Lauren was gone. Lauren was the real shock. The golden child was tarnished. Her hair was dull, pulled into a messy bun. She wore a wrinkled sweatshirt, no makeup, her eyes puffy and red. The PR mask was gone. This was the raw, panicked person underneath. They slid into the booth across from me. The air was thick with their anxiety. "Hannah," my dad started, his voice cracking. "You look good." I just nodded. I didn't return the pleasantry. I wasn't there for small talk. I was there for the invoice. Lauren, to her credit, didn't waste time. Maybe the panic had burned through her usual manipulations. "We're in trouble, Hannah. Bad trouble." I waited. "The promotion," she said, staring at her hands. "The car. It was all a lie. My job. I was covering my expenses with company cards. It snowballed. I kept thinking I could fix it before anyone noticed. She spoke fast, the words spilling out. I used Dad's name for a few credit cards to cover the first hole, and then it was all gone. They're going to press charges. The bank is foreclosing on the house. I stared at her, not with pity, not with anger, but with a slow, cold clarity. The McMansion, the symbol of their perfect hollow life, had been built on fraud. "What do you want from me?" I asked, my voice low, steady, clinical. My dad leaned forward, his hands trembling. "We have one option. The bank agreed to a consolidation loan, a second mortgage to cover what Lauren owes and stop the foreclosure." He wouldn't look at me. "But our credit is ruined. We need a cosigner." I felt the last piece of the puzzle click into place. It was so clean, so simple. "We just need you to sign, Hannah," he whispered. "It's $75,000. "It's nothing to a bank. You have good credit, we checked. Well, we assumed." My dad jumped in, his voice pleading. "We'll pay you back, every penny. This is your family. You can't just let us lose the house. You can't let this happen to Lauren." I thought about my little vanilla cake with its single unlit candle. I thought about Em handing me a broom instead of a bill. I thought about Ben's note next to a bowl of soup. I looked at the two people in front of me who were panicking, not because I was missing, but because my credit score was. I gave them the only word I had left, the only one that mattered. No. The word just hung there, small, quiet, harder than steel. Lauren's face crumpled, not into sadness, but into rage. "No? What do you mean, no? After everything we've done for you, you're just going to sit there and be this selfish? We are your family. You're destroying us." My father finally raised his voice. Actual volume, actual passion. Where was this passion when I was getting straight A's? Where was it on my birthday? "How can you be so cold, Hannah? We're on the edge of losing everything." "Cold?" I repeated. The word didn't even sting. I'd spent 21 years setting myself on fire just to keep them warm. I gave them my time, my energy, my silence, my obedience. And now that I refused to hand over my future, I was cold? I stood up slowly, deliberately. I took a $5 bill from my wallet and placed it on the table to cover the coffee I never drank. "That's not my debt to pay," I said. I turned and walked out. I didn't look back. On the bus ride home to Madison, my phone exploded. A text from my younger sister Emily. "You're a monster. I hope you're happy." Then one from my father. "You've made your choice. You've abandoned this family. Don't bother calling us again until you're ready to fix what you broke." I watched the dark countryside rush past the window and felt the old familiar twinge. Guilt. The programmed instinct, the feeling that you're bad for escaping, that you're cruel for surviving. But then I thought about what the word family really meant to them. It wasn't love, it was obligation, a one-way contract where I was the only one paying the premiums. You do not have to set yourself on fire to keep warm the very people who pushed you out into the cold. This wasn't revenge, it was accounting. My compassion had been a luxury. They'd overdrafted for years and the account was finally closed. My coldness was just a balanced budget. I wasn't abandoning them. I was refusing to pull them under with them. I wasn't destroying their lives. I was finally saving my own. The guilt wasn't mine to carry. It was theirs. The bus pulled into my neighborhood. The air was sharp and clean. I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel triumphant. I just felt quiet. And for the first time, the quiet felt like peace. When I got home, I took a hot shower, like I was washing off 3 years of silence and a lifetime of residue. I made a cup of tea. I sat on my lumpy couch and looked at my phone buzzing on the table. Then I did the simplest, most powerful thing I've ever done. I opened my contacts. Richard, delete. Lauren, delete. Emily, delete. I blocked them everywhere. It wasn't angry. It was housekeeping. You don't keep trashing your house just because you've owned it for a long time. Ben came home later. He saw me sitting there and quietly slid a bowl of noodles in front of me. I smiled. That was all the validation I needed. That night, I slept 8 straight hours. No nightmares, no waking up at 3 in the morning wondering what I'd done wrong. The The next morning, I was at the bakery by 5. The air was thick with yeast and warm sugar. Em was already there, covered in flour, sliding trays into the oven. She glanced at me as I tied my apron. "You're quiet today, kid. Everything okay?" I nodded, smiling without effort. "Yeah, everything is." I went to the proofing box and opened the heavy metal door. Inside, in the warm, dark, humid quiet, rows and rows of dough were rising, doubling in size, full of life, all in perfect silence. Em was right. The best things grow in the dark. They don't need applause. They just need warmth and time. I used to be the background noise in someone else's song. Then I was the silence of an empty room. Today, I'm still the silence, but it's different. It's not the hollow silence of being forgotten. It's the full, rich silence of growth. If this story resonated with you, like the video, subscribe to the channel, share it with a friend who might need it, and comment below with your perspective or the key lesson you took from it.